Good evening, Otherworldlies. This is Juliana Angel, your Dark Mask Diva. Tonight I decided to talk about multitasking. Everyone's like, ugh, I hate multitasking. It's probably something you end up having to do every day, right? And you've accepted it as something normal, something, this necessary evil. You have to do it every day because, you're juggling everything from work to your social life to kids to everything, right? All right. Did you guys know that multitasking is not something we're meant to do? That it's actually really bad for you? That's right. They like to say that men can't multitask, but women can. All right. Did you know that no one is actually supposed to be doing it, whether that you're a man or a woman? Yeah, women are not supposed to be multitasking either. No. And when women are multitasking, we're not actually doing it either. I know they like to say women, our corpus callosum is more advanced, so we are better able to multitask, and we can, and men can't, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I have news for you guys. Women are not supposed to be multitasking. Men are not supposed to be multitasking. You're not supposed to make your children multitask. All right? Here's the deal about multitasking. I'm going to, I've written some notes down, so if you see me doing like this, looking down, I'm written some notes down because I want to make sure that I give you the information that you need, so I'm not just making this up. I've taken notes about multitasking because this is actually pretty serious. All right. This is not me just coming up with something that's my opinion. This is something that I've done some research on because I've always known that multitasking was bad because I've done a lot of multitasking in my life. All right. Because I've been put upon to do a lot of multitasking in my life. And it never felt right. I mean, I've done a lot of it. But I always knew there was something wrong with it. I never felt good about it. And I always noticed when other people were doing it that I noticed their stress levels going up. And I noticed that their focus was never that good when they were doing it. And I'm talking men, women, children, everybody. I noticed that I saw people become visibly distressed when they were multitasking. I saw things going wrong when everybody was multitasking. I'm talking everybody. So I'm not saying this group of people could do it, but that group of people couldn't. No, you guys, nobody can do it. Okay? So there's not one group of people who's better than another group. All right? There's not one race of people who can do it. Or I'm not saying women can do it and men can't. Because my assertion is nobody is supposed to be doing it. Okay, so don't say women are better than men because we can multitask. I'm letting you guys know women are not supposed to be multitasking. Yeah. Okay, so you can't, sit there and go, we women are better because we can multitask and men can't. It's just women are put upon. We are expected to multitask. We're not supposed to. Okay. There's a lot of things we should not be expecting our men to multitask. They really aren't supposed to. Men's mind especially have a singular focus. Okay. Maybe women's minds are a little bit different than men's, but nobody really should be multitasking, okay? So I'm going to be looking down at my notes here and be talking a little bit about multitasking. The thing about it is it can impair efficiency, all right? When you're doing something, multitasking can impair efficiency. So I think that one's kind of a no-brainer, all right? It can impair efficiency because you're being distracted. Okay, I don't think I have to explain that. Of course, because you're doing one thing and you're getting distracted by doing another thing. It's impairing efficiency. It's slowing you down because you're supposed to be able to focus on one thing and do one thing the right way. I think everybody knows there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, right? Okay, so you should be able to focus on that one task and do it right and do it to completion. if you're having to multitask, are you really doing that one thing the right way? Okay, so now you're having to do the second thing. Now you're doing these two things. Are you doing either one of those things the right way? If you're having to go back and forth and perseverate, you're not. All right, because you're never really completing the first task. Because you're in the middle of the first task, and then you're having to stop in the middle of this first task and do the second task. So your mind is split between these two tasks. Okay, you need to be focused on the first task, complete that task, and do it right. And then logically move on to that second task. Be able to completely focus on that task, and then you need to do that second task right. Okay, you need to be able to do things the right way, and you need to be able to put your focus on that. All right. So another fine point, it's actually when you're doing that, when you're having to go back and forth and perseverate like that, it's actually hurting your brain. It's bad for your brain health, for your neurons. Okay. That's your neurons are firing in your brain to tell your brain what to do. That's actually bad for your mind. Literally bad for your mind. Okay? It's you're actually abusing your brain when you're multitasking. Did you know that? Yeah. So it's you're actually abusing your mind. You know, when you abuse drugs, that abuses your brain. Multitasking abuses your brain. So yeah, it's because you're task switching. Okay, you're kind of in the middle of never quite completing a task. Okay, because you're just going back and forth. You're being, you're confusing your own mind. All right, you're never quite doing the thing right. Okay, so you're actually confusing yourself. All right, and who's ever trying to, there's usually two people trying to tell you to do something. All right. And so here's two people trying to get you to do something. So you're trying to do these two different things to please two different people. All right. So you can't, there's no way you can possibly do either one of those things right. And I'm just being realistic with you. You can be full of ego and think you can do those two different things. You can't. Okay, but society tries to tell you that you can please everybody. You cannot please everybody. Okay, you need to pick the one thing and do it first. And then if you have time, you need to do the second thing. All right, and when you do things, you need to do one thing and do it right. Okay, and if you can't do the second thing, you have to be able to say no. Okay, but what happens is we will get hired on a job, and to save money, they will hire one person and say, you need to wear different hats, and then they will put you to task, but they won't just put you to task, they will put you to multitask, and they will make you do the job of several people at once. And it's basically mental abuse. But we've accepted that as something normal. Okay, we've accepted that as, I can take that on because, we're intelligent. All right, but multitasking has been something that, I'm sure we've been doing since the dawn of time, and we think it's okay. All right, but it's not a mindful practice. Okay, so the thing is, it's basically it's counterproductive. If you really want to be successful, the human working memory it's the primary cognitive resource. You can't divide it. Okay? It cannot be divided if you want that prefrontal cortex to work properly. All right, so you can't keep, that is where your impulses are. That is where your planning, your strategies are. You can't keep confusing it like that. Okay, you're abusing that part of your mind. All right. That is the part of your mind that is developing, that makes decisions. Okay, so when you're task switching, which is basically what multitasking is, all you're really doing is task switching. Okay, you're just messing with your prefrontal cortex. All right, and if you don't know, that is the part of your mind that is not fully developed until you're about 25 years old. All right, so that is why people are so impulsive when they're teenagers. That's why people are so impulsive when they're in their 20s. And they don't really settle down until they're in their 30s, okay? Because that's the part of their mind that is developed at the latest point, okay? So, we have our long-term memory stored at the back of our mind. But at the front of our mind is that prefrontal cortex where we're making all these decisions, okay? When you're doing that multitasking, you're messing with that part of your mind. That is the last part of your mind that's developed. You're screwing with that part of your mind. It's bad for you, okay? So it's the last part that's developed. You really don't want to do that because you're causing your mind to be delayed. Okay? You feel me? So it's kind of, you're abusing that part of you. You're delaying your own cognitive function. You're causing yourself for your mind not to grow and not to function properly and not to develop. So you're screwing with your own brain. Okay, you don't want to do that. That's the part of your mind that that programs your impulse control. Okay, impulse control, where you don't want to say the wrong thing to get yourself in trouble, where you don't want to use drugs, where you don't want to be a gambling addict, okay? Where you don't want to, say something stupid to get yourself in trouble, where you don't, you did something wrong, you don't want to tell on yourself, you just don't want to make stupid decisions, okay? That's the part of your mind that needs to fully develop so you can mentally be an adult, okay? You're messing with that part of your mind that makes you mentally an adult, basically, when you're constantly multitasking. In fact, if you're multitasking so much, it can bring you down to the level of an 8-year-old. I did some research, and that's what it said. I know that is just that sounds unbelievable, but that's what I found out. And judging by some people that they're multitasking so much, they have some serious immaturity problems because they're being driven to distraction, you guys. They can't help it. They're constantly being, distracted by noise, just by people bothering them all the time. We have our handheld devices. We just have too many people in our lives just needing, where they think they need this, that, and the other from us. We have more than one job. Okay, we have all these demands on our time where we just can't focus on one thing. Okay, it's hard to practice mindfulness, and if we can't practice mindfulness, our brain can't function properly. It's really scary. Okay, what we're letting happen to us because of this. Okay, okay, it affects our work quality. All right, and it's stressful, and it gives us social anxiety and depression. Okay, it's going to mess up your job performance. You think that multitasking is going to help you get things done at work. It's actually going to make your job performance worse. Okay, it's going to make you forget things at work. You're going to mess up at work if you're trying to multitask. If you don't pace yourself and do one thing at a time, okay? And I know you think you're getting all these things done because you're multitasking. You're not. Okay, I know that's goes against everything you've been told. But no, you're supposed to do one thing at a time at work. But you're being told that that's not the way to do it. Okay, but you're being told wrong, okay? But they're trying to make money, so they're pushing you to work harder, and working harder is multitasking, but it's not good. It's abusive to you, okay? Let's see. It decreases originality and creativity, okay? And let me tell you what else it does. It reduces emotional intelligence and IQ. You're reducing your IQ by multitasking, your actual IQ. Okay, people that multitask all the time. Have you ever noticed that people who are quiet and mindful and they're reading and they're not being distracted all the time? You ever notice why they're smarter than other people? And they spend all this time alone? And you think they're kind of weird, but they're really, really smart because they don't let themselves be distracted by everybody? That's why. Okay, if you're multitasking a lot, your prefrontal cortex, okay, regulates your emotional intelligence. So if you're multitasking all the time, you're putting your prefrontal cortex, you're damaging your prefrontal cortex, and that regulates your emotional intelligence. So if you're putting it at risk all the time, you are not going to have social skills. Okay, so you notice, kids that don't interact with other kids, and they're always playing video games, but they're not really interacting with other kids, they have lesser social intelligence. Okay, and they're multitasking because they're playing video games, or they're just being distracted all the time, but they're not really interacting with other people, with other wise adults, or they're not just doing one mindful thing at a time. They don't really have any social skills. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Okay, you say something to them and they take everything you say wrong. They get upset over everything. They cry over everything. They think you're picking on them. Okay, they don't get it. They don't get a joke when you tell them a joke. They don't know how to share their toys. They don't get things. I'm not talking about kids on the spectrum or kids with ADHD or something like that. I mean, there's a reason they're like that. I'm just talking about your regular kids that are not getting normal social interaction, okay? Because they're multitasking and doing all these other things and not having normal social interaction. They're just getting distracted all the time by machines and situations, and they're not getting their prefrontal cortex they're not developing it. All right, that's what multitasking does to adults. Okay, you're completely screwing yourself. All right, it is not good. Okay, let's see. Multitaskers have lower IQs and less empathy. Yeah, I believe it. I don't know. Have you ever seen someone who's completely distracted and stressed out? They're not going to care about your feelings. They're stressed out. Because we're talking prefrontal cortex again, okay? Prefrontal cortex, that's all about empathy. Okay, so that is emotional IQ, okay? Or EQ rather. I'm calling it emotional IQ, but it's really EQ, emotional quotient. People with emotional quotient, if it's low, empathy is going to be low. That means they can't relate to other people. They're not going to get along with other people, okay? Multitasking is messing with your prefrontal cortex. It's bringing that completely down. It's and they're not getting your full attention, or when you have someone else in your life that you're keeping on the side, or when you just can't focus on them. When you love somebody, people need you to make eye contact, not be like, yeah, honey, what? And they need you to look them in the eye and be like, okay, what do you need to talk about? And they really need you to like completely pay attention to them. They need to know that you're emotionally present for them. All right? You need to be emotionally available for people. They don't need to think that they have to share you with the whole wide world. You're their person, okay? So you need to listen to people you love. Okay? You don't need to be talking to all these other people and not be there for your significant other. Okay, but if you're multitasking, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to hold down a relationship. Okay? You're always going to be distracted by work and hobbies and whatever it is, because you have all these demands on your time. Okay, and it's not completely your fault. It's just that you think this is normal and it's okay, and it's not. Okay, so this is why they feel neglected. It's just, it's really not okay. I'm going to tell you something funny that it's funny, but it's not funny. Like I'd go and I'd go to talk to someone, and they go, "Oh, follow me around while I work and talk to me," and I'd be like, "No, I'll just talk to you another time." They're like, no, follow me around while I do my work and just talk to me. And I'd be like, no, I just, I'm all right. I'll just catch you another time. Like, and they'd get mad because I don't want to follow them around while they work and talk to them. And you know why that is? Because I'd be annoyed because they weren't making eye contact with me. And I'm like, I don't want to hang out with you while you're working and talk to you while you're working and while you're doing something. I'll just talk to you another time. I don't want to follow you around while you're, laboring or whatever. And while you're doing your chores or while you're doing whatever, I'll just talk to you some other time. Because that person is multitasking. And I mean, I was like that, as a young adult. Like, I didn't want to deal with people when they were doing whatever work they had to do and talk to them while they were working, or if there was some teacher doing something and the teacher wasn't making eye contact with me and they're like, no, I can do this and listen to you at the same time. And I'm thinking to myself, I disagree. This is not okay with me. And I'm like, I'll just come talk to you another time. I'm like, I'll just come another time. Because I really just wanted that person's undivided attention. Because I know darn well that people have a hard enough time listening when they're not being distracted. And I think we all know that's true. I think we all know that people have a hard enough time listening when nothing is going on. So when they're doing something else, they're really not going to hear anything you say. And that's the truth. Because the mind is not set up to fully hear what's, and understand what's going on, unless they're actively listening. And when someone is doing something else, they're not actively listening. And they can think they are, but if they're making you talk to them while they're doing something else, no, I want eye contact. I want verbal recognition. I want them to repeat what I just told them. I want to know that somebody heard what I just said and understood what I just said. Because I don't make people follow me around when I'm doing things. And no, I pay attention to people when they're talking to me. All right, and I really do try to actively listen when people say things to me. Because I want to give them the same courtesy that I expect from them. So I used to really get annoyed when people do that. I'm like, no, I'll just come back when you're not doing something. And I think that really surprises people that I'm like that. I'm like, no, I'll hit you up some other time. But that's just me, because I've always just known that multitasking was not good for you. And I don't know if that's because I spend a lot of, I spent a lot of time reading when I was a child and drawing and doing a lot of quiet time activities that I just was mindful. I don't know if that was why, and I just built my mind up that way, and I just knew this multitasking stuff was a bunch of bull. But I've always known it was toxic. And now I really feel compelled to share it with you guys, okay? Because I found out I was right. The thing about multitasking, the thing about it is time management. You want organization. You want alignment, productivity, goals, timing. You want to cross items off a to-do list. Okay, so you're going to want to just have it written down. All right, that might help you organize it better. Okay, instead of trying to intersperse it throughout and do it all at the same time. It's just not a good idea. The frontal lobe is the limbic system. All right, it makes some tasks feel automatic. All right, and it's for vital emotional discipline. All right, for better focus and improved memory. If you're multitasking too much, you're going to start losing your vital memory. All right, it's if you're losing memory, that means you're losing your IQ. This is serious, you guys. Okay. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to limit your computer tabs. Okay, you're not going to want to open up a bunch of computer tabs. That's going to make the situation worse. Okay. You're going to want to keep a mindfulness journal. That's going to help build your mind. Okay. You want to disable notifications. That's something I have to do. I have to turn off my phone sometimes because the notifications are going off and driving me crazy and distracting me. Okay, the average person checks their phone 150 times a day. Think about it, and they're at work and they're checking their phone 150 times a day. Can you imagine how that must screw with your productivity? 150 times a day, that's the average person. Okay, we're talking an adult here, not a kid playing with their phone. Let's see. All right, you're going to want to prioritize with clarity. Refocus on what's the most crucial. Okay? Your must-haves, your should-haves, and your good-to-haves. Okay? I'm not going to go into all of that because it's going to be a lot of details and it's going to be overwhelming. I just took the notes down to improve my own life. But it's going to make the video too long. Okay, so I could make more videos about this if you like, but it's a whole lot of details. Okay, you want to make sure you're managing mental burnout. If you have all this multitasking, you're breaking your brain down, and you will have mental burnout. Okay, so our brains are actually programmed to make a certain number of decisions every day. I wish this book would have told me how many, so I can just say, okay, 20. All right, but I guess everyone's mind is different. But it said our brains are actually programmed to make a certain number of decisions every day, and once we reach the limit, we can't make any more. So, you know what? That makes sense. It really does. It's like, okay, that's it. I think I reached my limit. Do you ever just get to the point where you're like, I think I made enough decisions today. I'm done. That's why, because your brain is programmed to make a certain amount of decisions, and then that's it. It's called decision fatigue. It's a thing. Make sure you're getting a lot of sleep. You're working out. You're working wisely. You frequently pause. Meditating is going to help you. Stopping to refuel, eating healthy, always going to help. And here's a very important thing, you guys. Leave multitasking off of your resume. People think that it is some kind of virtue. Don't put it on your resume. Okay? I'm never putting it on a resume again. And if someone brings it up, I'm going to say, I really just think it decreases productivity. I just don't think it's a good thing. I find that it just undermines whatever project is going on. I believe in doing one thing at a time and doing it well. So leave it off the resume, because I've studied this now. I've always known it was a bad idea, and it really is. So that's what I wanted to tell you about multitasking. And you're going to want to not let people bug you now that you know. All right. So when people are bugging you and distracting you, don't feel bad about getting them out of your hair. Okay? Don't take on extra projects. Don't think you can do everything. It's bad for you. You're really just dumbing yourself down. You're literally making yourself dumb. You're literally abusing your own mind. You may as well just go smoke some crack. All right? So, this has been Juliana Angel, your Dark Mask Diva. Stop multitasking. All right? I love you all. Good night.